Hey everybody, thank you for coming to spend the day with the Ed Collab gathering. I am Kristin Ziemke and welcome to my home. Uh, Joining you today live from my office. The fall has completely entered the Midwest and it's a brisk Chicago Saturday, and what better way to spend the afternoon than with friends learning online and collaborating and building our PLN. I think 14 years in education, and this year I'm more energized than ever before because I continue to keep learning new things. I have a global network of amazing educators that I'm spending time with, and it's a great way to get inspired to connect online. And so welcome today. We are going to talk a little bit about social media in the classroom. And so let's get started with that. Alrighty. Whoa. Can you guys see that there? Krista, can you see that? Perfect. Excellent. So we're going to talk a little bit about social media for good in the classroom and not for evil. And so when we think about how we can build student voice and audience, there's a lot of new tools out there that we can use to get started. And I think so much of it is about shifting our mindset in the classroom, who's in charge, guiding our kids to take the lead, turning over some of the organization to say, I don't know, what do you want to learn about? This photo was taken by one of my 6-year-olds and posted to his blog. And what I love about this photo is that I think the lines are a little blurry between who is teaching and who is learning. And I think that's what it should be in our classroom. I found that engaging my kids, giving them a voice, amplifying their network has really empowered them to make new connections and think differently about their learning. I'm also going to share some work from my colleague, Katie Mutaris' classroom. Katie is my writing partner, and we have co-authored Connecting Comprehension and Technology with Stephanie Harvey and Ann Goodvis. And that's a resource if you're looking for more ideas on using mobile devices in the classroom. That's a resource that we would love for you to check out to see what does it look like when first graders are engaging in a back channel discussion, or how do we create new projects with some of these mobile tools. And so I'm going to share some of Katie's students and her work with you today as we spend a little bit of time together. We've been so blessed to have Stephanie Harvey as a mentor in our lives, and she's completely transformed how I think about learning in the classroom. And her big thing is that learning is social. And we know that the reason kids want to think, learn, collaborate, build understanding is because it's fun. And so if we can give them the space and a platform to do so effectively, we know that we can inspire them and use student interest to guide what happens with our curriculum. And so we make time for lots of collaboration throughout the day, right? We turn and talk and share our books with friends in class. We have revision and reflection partners, right? We join book clubs and talk about text. We work in small groups in inquiry circles and collaborate to redefine what we know, to build a new understanding, and to share what we do in a more public format. All of this goes back to much of the research on active literacy. David Pearson, Perkins, Stephanie Harvey, Goodvis, Smokey Daniels have all done a large body of work on this idea of active literacy, but really finding ways to get kids to do the work. How can we engage our students to read, write, think, question, research, share, investigate. And so when we think about using new mobile devices in the classroom or web tools or apps, we think about how does this connect to what we know about pedagogy? How do we bring it back to the 30 years of best practice research that shows, oh yeah, this is a way to connect with kids. This is an avenue to bring the multimodal learning into our classroom, to reach a large number of our students, to differentiate, to personalize, and to find specific ways for all kids to build understanding. What we know about powerful learning is that powerful learning is active. Smokey and Steph have both taught me that whoever does the most work learns the most. And so we want to make sure that all of our students are engaged and active in what they do. We also know that powerful learning is authentic, right? Giving kids the background and the understanding to acknowledge the why. Why are we doing this, right? How does it impact me? How will I know that my thinking and learning is valued? And so we create conditions and contexts for kids to do this in a space and in a scenario that matters. And when we find the opportunity to make our learning active, to build authenticity, we get to this place of empowerment. And this is where we see thinking and learning shift as there's no longer just one teacher in the classroom. There's 34 teachers, and those 34 teachers have a network that they can go to ask questions, to collaborate, right? Sometimes they go to books, sometimes they go to libraries, sometimes they post a question online, sometimes they tweet someone who's in their network. But we're building this idea that Peter Johnson has talked so richly about, and I can't say enough about his text choice words and opening minds. It's completely transformed my practice. But this idea of agency, this sense for our kids to be, I'm the kind of kid who can find the answers to my questions. I'm the kind of kid who can connect with students around the world. I'm the kind of kid who can ask an author I've met online about their writing process. And so we build this sense of agency and this idea, collaboration, and our students do the work. For a number of years, I've been thinking about how we can use some of these new tools, right, and how they might transfer into our classroom. And, you know, to be completely honest and to go into a place of truth talk, I was nervous about it. I was afraid. Initially, I wasn't a person who was on Twitter, and it's funny how it all comes full circle. You know, I was inspired. Donna Lynn gave the keynote today, and I was inspired at her session at NCTE a number of years ago to get on Twitter, and so she has been my catalyst for building some amazing friendships, collaborative relationships with teachers around the world. And Donna Lynn showed me it doesn't have to be a scary thing. You know, I was the kind of person that thought, who cares what Kim Kardashian ate for breakfast, right? I didn't want to support or buy into that kind of paparazzi feeding frenzy. I also thought it was a place for people who were narcissists and where, you know, people who were overindulging in going public online. And so I didn't want to support that. But then I learned from Donna Lynn and from my great friend Jenny McGarrah and my technology coordinator Carolyn Skiba that there might be an opportunity for good in social media, and how could we use it with our students safely and appropriately. And so as we have these new tools, we have new opportunities, and sometimes it takes testing out a few different tools to find something that works for you. But we've been looking at, you know, how can we use learning management systems in the classroom to engage all students? How can we use student blogs to build a network even for our youngest learners? How do we show kids the why behind so much of the important thinking and learning that we do throughout the day. And so this year, when I attended ISTE, I heard Allison Finn share this, and I think it's just such a powerful piece. You know, we've moved beyond, oh, that would be nice. Or, you know, when I was a kid growing up in 5th grade, I had pen pals, and I used to send letters via airmail, right? You had to buy that special paper and special envelopes to write on, and I was excited about that, but that was kind of like fluff, you know, that was like, oh, and this is one kind of cutesy nice thing that we can do to connect with people around the world. But in this day and age, you know, we look at Friedman's work and the idea of the world being flat, and it's not an add-on anymore. It is a requirement for success in the global economy and our global future. You know, we need to lower the walls of our classroom and really realize that we are all learners in this giant school called life, and that the skills that we're learning in school today are the skills we need for citizenship tomorrow. And as educators, we have this opportunity to build citizens who think differently and collaborate and know how to use their resources. And so I believe while there's many challenges out there, and we all know what those are, I also think it's the most exciting time to be in education, because we have opportunities to connect our kids that we never had before. And so when we think about connecting and collaborating, we go to this idea that was shared with me by my colleagues here in Chicago, Autumn Laidler and Jenny McGarrett. We have to think outside our classroom and sort of look at this tiered approach to how we can connect our kids. Of course, classroom community is the one that as educators we get, we're good with, we understand, but thinking about how do we connect as a school? What does it look like when we identify and work with a networked community, and how do we push our students to move beyond into that global community? And so when we take a look at our kiddos, you know, this is our community, but as we go into this idea of school networked and global, we think a little bit about how can we amplify our school community? How can we do something different with kids? And so we start with blogging, and we love Kid Blog. It is a great tool. You can set layers of security and privacy, but here we can see a student's posting a back question and stuff that I already know. We connect our young learners with other students in the school. My class always had 5th grade blogging buddies, and you can see right here we set the tone from early on that blogs are not only places to share your learning, but places where you interact and get comments and give feedback. And so here you can see people responding to Hannah's questions about bats. All right? We're also bringing our families into the mix and saying, you know, just because the bell rings at 3 o'clock doesn't mean the thinking and learning has to stop. So connect with us outside the school day. Post a blog from home. Think about the new opportunities we have. I had a little guy come in one day, and he was crying, and he was so worried because his dad was traveling and he couldn't get in touch with him before school. And I said, you know what, don't stress. I was like, I know your dad follows your blog. Why don't you just blog to him really quickly and check in? And so here Diego posts a blog to his dad. Dad, are you okay? Did you get hurt? Did you fly in safe, Dad? Mom told me there were tornadoes in Dallas. Let me know. All right, he posts that blog at 8:24 in the morning because his dad subscribes to our RSS feed. Within 5 minutes at 8:29, he writes back, sorry I missed you. Yeah, I'm safe, just a lot of delays. Right? So by 8:33, not even 10 minutes after we entered the classroom crying, we've been able to resolve this issue because we have new tools for our students. And that's the power of using social media in the classroom. We do a lot of back channels, and of course a back channel is a form of written conversation, right? Smokey Daniels has done so much work in the idea of silent dialogue and written conversation, and a back channel is a way to take that online and communicate with students. And so every inquiry we do, we start with some type of photo. Students begin by posting a greeting to our class and then commenting on that photo. And so here we can look at student responses and identify the layers of strategic thinking that we've taught in many lessons, right? Do you ask good questions? How do you infer from an image? What can you determine to be important? How do you summarize and synthesize? And when we create these conditions for kids to interact, to be reflective and thoughtful, we quickly get to what George says here at the bottom, right? The metacognition. Here is my thinking. We invite kids to think about their thinking, and we make it concrete and visible. And so the conversation continues. We start suggesting ideas for our inquiry and what we're going to learn about next. Students can take that image, open it in a drawing app, annotate it, share it back to the class. Again, what is this? This is evidence of the comprehension strategies that we've taught in class. Asking good questions, right? Inserting yourself in the thinking. It has strong wind. How big is this? I love this one because we can see this is dangerous, right? Determining importance. Is this Florida? Ideas for what we should study next. Tsunamis, earthquakes, floods, and hurricanes. That's a child that knows they have a say in what we study, right? That their voice matters in guiding our curriculum units, connecting to background knowledge. This reminds me of Hurricane Sandy, right? And so we get all this authentic evidence that students can then share with their friends and build thinking, right? I love falling in love with close reading, how Chris and Kate Roberts talk about, we closely read text, media, and most importantly, life. And I think, when we give kids opportunities to recognize the reason that we think and discuss and learn and ask questions is because it's fun. We invite them on a regular basis to closely read their life. And if we can engage them to do that, we know that they're going to be thoughtful about everything that follows after that point in time. We do a lot of these written conversations on a number of tools. We use Edmodo. We use Today's Meet. We do a lot of cross-grade collaboration and interaction. Here's a back channel between 6th grade, 4th grade at a different school, and 1st grade students talking about tools they use for learning. And so we're always bringing it back. I think this was Digital Learning Day. What tools do we use for learning with digital tools? And so we're suggesting KidRex and other apps like World Wildlife Fund, and really setting the tone for citizenship, right? We know that we need to teach digital citizenship. We recognize that at times we've seen some issues with that because kids haven't been explicitly taught how to interact mindfully online. And so we have a huge opportunity as educators to start guiding them to talk about, what do you post and why? What does a blog comment look like and sound like? What are appropriate search engines for kids? What are tools that we can use to communicate our thinking? And so we start setting the tone for what happens in the future as we engage students online. My colleagues at NTA, National Teachers Academy here in Chicago, are doing some amazing things with digital learning, and they have a school-wide Twitter Tuesday, which is just unbelievable. If you would like to follow along, please search the hashtag NTA Learns. And every Tuesday they do some school-wide community building project where kindergarten through 8th grade gets online and discusses what they're learning about a book, ideas, school, collaboration. And my colleagues Jenny McGarrett and Autumn Laidler have done a lot of work with this. Jenny actually has an article out today. If you Google Teaching Toward Tomorrow, you'll be able to see Jenny's blog, and she's done a whole post with video and links about Twitter Tuesday. But what a great way to build that school-wide understanding for how we use some of these social media tools and how we can collaborate across grades. All right, so we talk a little bit about school. moving into the idea of networked community, right? How do we connect our kids to people that we know as educators, as professionals, online networks that we might have available? So this is just like one more layer removed, right? We sort of know these people, we have a relationship with them, and we're finding ways to maximize thinking by connecting our students to them. We do this with teachers around the country, right? We had an inquiry project with students in 1st, 4th, and 6th grade. We were looking to do something different. We said, you know, what if we did an inquiry project where everybody contributed, and we used Twitter and a blogging tool and Google Hangouts as a way to engage our students in building thinking. And so here you can see my students backchanneling. And so we found ways to connect our kids and to build thinking. And when we look for the evidence that this has on student learning, on thinking, on finding the energy, that agency piece to do more work, we look at this blog post from 1st grader Sydney. I love learning. It's just so interesting. I want to learn and learn and learn. I love learning at home. I love learning at school. I love learning everywhere. I like learning at any subject. I like learning since technology. I like art. I met new friends on Backchannel about bats. Google Hangout was awesome. And so when we think about all of these layers of interaction that this child engaged in, how she's synthesizing and showcasing, this is what learning is for a 21st century learner. If this is what she's doing in 1st grade, it's so exciting to think about the what's next and to dream big about what might be possible when we talk about social media in the classroom. A couple of years ago, when Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast, we had a little student who was visiting Brooklyn for the weekend, and as a result was trapped by the hurricane. And so as my 1st graders came into class, they were concerned about George and were worried about, is he okay? How do we know what's going on? And so because I had just had a Twitter training for my families the week before, I knew George's mom followed us on Twitter. And so I thought, okay, well, let's tweet her. Maybe she will be available. And we finally got a hold of her, and we said, okay, well, now that we've gotten a hold of you, would it be okay for George to report live from the storm back to our 1st grade classroom so we could hear what was going on? And so George, throughout the storm, reported back to our classroom. We opened our class Twitter and showcased it on the projector, and as new messages popped up, we connected with George. We asked him questions. We invited other classrooms at our school to join in the investigation. And throughout the week, George ended up reporting back about his thinking and learning through the hurricane, because he was there for a number of days. And so for the very first time, we could see the power of having a 6-year-old channel important information, right? So whereas in the past my students only had access to what they heard from their parents or CNN or, you know, things that were filtered, this was a shift when our 6-year-old friend George was acting as a reporter, and he was using Twitter and Vines and Skype to connect back to our classroom and to teach us about what happens with a storm, how do we stay connected. He ended up being in New York for the rest of the week, and so he would join us via Skype on a daily basis and engage in our learning because he couldn't get there physically. But it was such a great opportunity to showcase some of these tools as well. We're very mindful about giving our students an audience online as well as face-to-face. And so a number of years ago, we borrowed an idea from Maury Dufour in Maine and created a app speed dating event at a teacher conference where our students did hands-on demonstration lessons with educators. And so in a 1-hour period, teachers would rotate from center to center and get a 4-minute hands-on demonstration lesson from fourth grade students at NTA with my colleague Autumn Laidler and 6th grade students at Burley with my colleague Ben Kovacs, and to learn a little bit about how to use these tools. And so whereas we make opportunities online, we also understand the importance of doing that in a face-to-face context. And so students really were energized by having the opportunity to go public and to teach teachers. And so one of my students was so excited about this event that she blogged about it from home and said, I'm so excited to go teach teachers. And then she used Croakit, which is a free audio recording tool, and embedded an audio recording into her blog where she talked about her joy. And so let's check in right here with Becca. Here she is teaching Croakit. That was the app that she was going to do. And here's what she has to say about it on her blog. And that is what passion sounds like, right? That's when we see kids have energy to do the work. And so Becca posts this blog. Teachers from our network start commenting and giving her feedback. We quickly see responses from around the world, as here teachers in Missouri say, wow, I love this. Teachers in North Carolina are joining the conversation. And as you would find in first grade, we go back to the classroom. One of her blogging buddies from Michigan doesn't really care that she posted this blog about, learning how to use Croakit. But my question, have you lost a tooth? And then Becca's classmate Alexa comes on and says, Becca, your blog is fantastic. You are a star at blogging, and I love your sound in Croakit. Be awesome like this every day. You rock. And so we see, again, that idea of play, passion, and purpose, where students are energized to do the work, where they're giving feedback, they're engaged and building this sense of agency. I'm the kind of kid who can post a blog that goes viral and teach people around the world. And so as we shift from this networked community of educators that we might know to a more global community where as teachers, we're building relationships, but our students are also building relationships and learning how to act responsibly online and add teachers, students, experts to their network. We do a lot of Twitter in the classroom, and we have a classroom Twitter account where we contact app developers and friends around the world, authors. There's so many authors on Twitter who are extremely generous with their time. And so we interact on a regular basis with those in our community. First starting, of course, gradual release with Twitter, right? First starting with the teacher modeling how to tweet. Then as the year goes on, students taking over the tweets, right? You can see here we had a mystery Skype and I loved it, right? We move into a place where we're creating app tutorials for the world. We're posting these app tutorials to our classroom website, tweeting out the URL to the app developers, and giving kids feedback from people who are creating the apps that they use to build thinking and they love. Here, Dylan shared his tutorial with Book Creator. Book Creator writes back and features his video on their site. So we see here's where we find opportunities for a 6-year-old to teach the rest of the world. We're connecting with organizations that we love, and when we show our students that publishing companies, websites, apps that they know and love respect their thinking. When National Geographic writes, we'll watch all the smart tweets coming from your class, they see what they do matters, and they have the inspiration and the energy to have another go. They're connecting, they're thinking differently. No longer are my students saying to me, is this what you want, right? Is this what it will take to get, quote unquote, a good grade? They're thinking instead, what do my followers want to see? What is my audience looking to hear from me? And they really don't care very much about what I have to say, and that's exactly how I want it. When students get feedback from Jenny Holm, an author that they love, about their writing, they go right back to writing and are inspired. We connect a lot with Wonderopolis, and if you haven't spent time on the website Wonderopolis with your students, please do make that be the one thing you implement on Monday. But Wonderopolis is such a great organization for teaching questioning and building thinking, and they're so responsive to classrooms. And a couple years ago, my students asked Wonderopolis a wonder, and it was featured as the wonder of the day, Are Leprechauns Real? And so when they got back to school and saw that, the questions that they have matter, and that organizations that they respect are going to help them find the answers to their questions, the passion and energy was contagious, and they couldn't wait to keep questioning and researching and finding more information. We're even engaging in math stories online. My colleague Karen Learman created a hashtag called Math Story, and if you follow the Math Story hashtag, you can connect with teachers who want to talk about math and post questions and problems for students around the world to solve. And so this becomes just another way for us to interact and build thinking. We're doing a literature circle with some of Seymour Simon's books, and my student Grace was so excited about his dog's book. She went off into writer's workshop and wrote this letter to Seymour, because I know that Seymour is on Twitter and he's such an amazing supporter of classrooms and learning. I took a photo of Grace's letter to him, I tweeted it to him, and within that same writer's workshop period, Seymour Simon writes back and says, please tell Grace, thank you for her nice letter to me. Of course, what happens next? Grace, as you can see at the bottom here, writes back to Seymour. Thank you, I love all your books, all the series. You write great books. The whole group likes them. We're reading your dog's book, Grace. And then, of course, everybody else wants to write back to Seymour, right? So I love the one at the top. Do you have nonfiction books on ebook? As if you don't have ideas, Seymour Simon, about what to write next, here's what I want. I want volcanoes, hurricanes, sharks, and cats, wolves, the brain. We love your books. And so when we create these connections for our kids, they start to think differently about the world they live in. A couple days later, I walked past one of my tables and someone was like, I wonder what Seymour's doing. And I was like, Seymour who? They're like, oh, duh, Miss Ziemke, Seymour Simon, what's he doing? And so they think that this is their network. This is how we interact and engage with people who support us and use our resources mindfully. Thinking about the what's next, we're doing a lot of visual book reviews, bringing that idea of transliteracy. How do you read an image to communicate? How do you share your reading lives in a larger format? And the amazing Catherine Hale had this idea to create an Instagram file of readergrams and book photos by students for students, right? What we're really trying to do here is shift this idea of students as consumers to students as creators. How can we create content for other kids, teachers, the world? And so we've been doing a lot of these visual book reviews and book selfies that we're sharing now using the hashtag on Instagram, readergrams. So if you're interested, please join in, follow along, share those visual book reviews on Twitter, and we'll set the tone for celebrating our reading lives. When we think about the global community, We're blogging from kindergarten through 8th grade. Kindergarten starting with just photo blogs. I love this one, and I think Steph Harvey would approve. Reading is thinking, right? What a fabulous title for a blog from kindergarten. We move on and talk about books and book reviews and celebrate titles. This is from Katie's 5th grade class, and one of her students did a book review about Darth Paper Strikes Back. Sometimes we have to find audiences that are relevant for our kids, so Katie posts the URL to her Twitter account, says my student would love comments. Please, give him some feedback on this post, and then she adds Tom Engelberger, the author of Darth Paper's Twitter handle. What do you know? Tom Engelberger comments on this 5th grader's blog. As a 30-something, it would be exciting to get a comment from an author that I know and love on my blog. For a 10-year-old, that changes everything, right? We start to think differently about how we interact, about our resources. Katie also last year took the amazing 2 writing teachers Slice of Life, which has been a blogging community for educators for the past number of years, where you blog for 30 days in a row. And Katie engaged her kids in the Slice of Life challenge this past March, where her 5th graders blogged every day of March and got feedback from students around the world. Talk about on-demand writing, right? Thinking through the process and saying, oh, we have a voice. We can connect. We have a network of students, teachers, readers, followers from around the world that care what we have to say, right? And so there's so many tools and resources that we use with kids. And what we see is that when we invite kids to connect, to collaborate, right, we see the importance of giving them a voice. And so here, this little friend writes, thank you, Mom, for responding. I love when you responded to my tweeting post. Any type of responding, like on KidBlog and Twitter. All right. And finally, when we provide these tools to our students and we say, use them, have a go, connect, they start to think differently about the opportunities they have. And I had a student that posted this blog, and somewhere around lunchtime, the middle of the day, I noticed that there were a ton of comments that it needed approval on our KidBlog account. And so here I logged in and looked and saw that this 1st grader had posted this blog trying to crowdsource a name for his dog, right? Get online and help me find a name for my dog. So start commenting right this second so I can find a name. Start, people, and then I'll make another blog. And so quickly, he got quite a bit of comments. First, from his best friend who sat next to him. Instead of leaning over to his table, he just wrote a comment. I thought up a name, Jason. Good choice, because you're my best friend, right? And so throughout the course of the morning, my students had gone on and given feedback for names. You can see Name It Miss Ziemke. All of my junior high teacher colleagues were laughing at that and saying, did you see that? That is a compliment in 1st grade, and I would be honored if a student named a dog after me. And so I started sharing this URL, and our global network, people that we knew, people that we didn't know, started responding and giving feedback, sending links to find ideas, do's and don'ts for having a dog, right? It's so exciting to get a new dog. What a great way to find a name. And so we see that these tools change how our kids think. They come up with ideas, options, possibilities that we've never taught. And so by the end of the school day, my little student writes back as the last comment that his buddy that suggested the very first name, Jason, George is right. The dog's name is going to be Jason. Awesome job, everybody. And while I hunted down his mom at dismissal and said, oh, we've got this thing going on, she was so supportive and thought it was amazing. And I commented back after school, I said, a dog is something you're going to have for a very long time. You might want to talk to your mom, dad, brother, see what they think. And the following day, his mom tweeted out this picture to our classroom account, him and his new dog, Derby, not Jason, But we see that when kids have new tools, when we engage them to do the work, here he is responding to every comment, authentic writing with a purpose. We shift how kids think about themselves. You know, no longer are they just bloggers, but this is the face of empowerment, and we get to that authentic agency, powerful, understanding the why, and find new ways and tools for giving our kids a voice, not only in our classrooms and our curriculum, but in the global community about what they want to learn, how they want to interact, and to know that they have the opportunity to do this, to find followers, to change the outcome, to give daily purpose to the important thinking and learning that we do in our classroom. And so as we talk about, social media for good, we talk about a number of different things, right? We address all of these layers as we talk about how we can use social media for good in the classroom. If you're looking for some additional resources, a great resource is created by Kristin. She runs a primary blogging community where she will connect you with other primary grade classrooms on blog, on Twitter, with teachers. So make sure to check that out. A great place to start making connections as an educator is on a Twitter chat, and Jerry Blumgarten has a great list of Twitter chats around the world, and all of these resources will be listed on my website as well. So if you're thinking about how can I use social media for good, what do I do to get started, please check out a couple of these resources. And we start with this idea of community, and we bring it back to the kids, and we always take a picture by the field house outside my school, and I never noticed until a few years ago that there was a quote around this field house door. And when I looked it up, it was, of course, Vygotsky. And, children do grow into that intellectual life around them. And so I think if we can make that as rich as possible, the sky is the limit. So I hope you had a couple ideas for using social media for good in the classroom. I am excited to continue to talk about this, so please feel free to reach out via Twitter or via the EdCollabs site, and hopefully we can stay connected and really find new ways for building student thinking and using social media for good. I'm happy to take some questions, and I think maybe Krista is taking a look at that, and we've got just a couple minutes here. So questions from the Twitter.
Okay, it looks like you have a couple of questions in the comments area.
Perfect. Let's go take a look at that. Awesome. Let's see. So many amazing resources. Where to begin? I think a great place to get started is to join Twitter as an educator. Follow your grade level chat. So there's first chat, fifth chat, special ed chat. There's a number of different options to start connecting with educators. And over the years, my first chat community has been so important and instrumental in my life for getting some of these new ideas and layers of feedback. I would start following as a teacher. You don't even have to post. You can just lurk and look on and start thinking about how you can connect with other teachers. I also think blogging with students is super powerful. Probably the most powerful thing I've done with kids since inquiry circles. And so I would check out KidBlog. It's a very easy to use tool and has so many different layers of privacy and security so that we can configure it and set it up however we want or however our school or district deems appropriate. I think a couple other great ways of sharing are just to reach out to your parents, create a classroom website, think about a few easy back-channel tools. We love Today's Meet. Padlet is another great resource for engaging kids online. And think about how we can use those to connect our kids. Start small with just your students, then reach out to a classroom across the hall, then reach out to a class at another school, and slowly add additional layers for developing a network for our kids. You know, we as grown-ups understand the importance of our PLN. We need to create the SLN for our students and build student learning networks for them that they can add on to, access, and really think about as we move on. So thank you, everybody, for joining me. It was great to have you here in Chicago. For those of you who are joining us in the future, thank you so much. Please follow along with the Ed Collab, and we look forward to more PD opportunities with teachers and connection experiences with our students across the world. So thanks, everybody. Have a great Saturday, and see you next time.